I think, looking back, it's not that I was blind. It's that I was comfortable. There's this warmth that settles into your life when things are just fine. Not dramatic, not explosive, not movie script passionate, just fine. You come home from work, kiss your wife on the forehead, kick off your shoes, toss your keys in the bowl by the door. She's on the couch, scrolling through her phone. There's something bubbling on the stove, maybe a half-drunk glass of wine nearby. The cat's purring on a blanket. That kind of fine. We met in college. Nothing particularly magical, a group project, shared coffee breaks, hung out too much, then kissed. I never had to chase her. It just felt easy, like how a hand naturally finds the other in the dark. 5 years together before we got married. People said we were stable. That was the word I always heard. You two are so stable. I took it as a compliment, though now I wonder if it wasn't a polite way of saying unremarkable. I was 29 when we tied the knot. Not too young, not too old. We had a simple wedding, small garden venue, close friends, a cousin on acoustic guitar. No drama, no unexpected speeches, no drunken exes showing up. Just love, family, and that giddy exhaustion at the end of a long day when you finally realize we did it. We're a team now. We moved into a rental apartment on the 3rd floor of a quiet building. 2 bedrooms, one we turned into a shared workspace, since she worked in marketing and I was freelancing in tech. We painted the walls a pale green, argued over rugs, ordered way too many things from IKEA. It was good, genuinely. Our lives settled into a rhythm. Monday mornings were coffee-fueled and half asleep. Friday evenings meant wine and takeout. Sundays were for laundry and late brunch with our parents. We shared Spotify playlists, read books side by side in bed, laughed over dumb YouTube videos. I'd catch her looking at me sometimes with this sleepy smile, and I'd think, God, I'm lucky. The kind of lucky you don't talk about too loudly in front of friends who are going through breakups or messy relationships. The kind you almost feel guilty for. I never really questioned anything. Why would I? We weren't the couple that yelled at each other in public. We didn't have dramatic fights or slammed doors. If she was upset, she just went quiet for a bit. If I was stressed, it'd go for a run. Then we'd come back together, apologize, make tea. We didn't leave things broken. She worked hard, always had deadlines, meetings, client calls that ran late. Sometimes she came home with tired eyes and a fast food bag in her hand. I'd already have the dishes done. I wasn't the perfect husband, am not claiming that, but I was present. Steady. She used to say I made her feel calm, and that meant the world to me. In retrospect, that calm might have turned into something else. Something flatter, something to quiet, but I didn't see it. Not then. We even adopted a cat, a ginger tabby with crooked whiskers and a stubborn personality. She named him Pixel, said it was a nod to both our jobs. I thought that was clever. He slept between us at night, a little heat source we both instinctively reached for. I had this image in my head, a future US in a small house with bookshelves and creaky floors. Maybe a kid, maybe 2, maybe just the cat and a garden. She'd be barefoot in the kitchen. It'd bring her coffee in the mornings. We'd grow old, and the silence would never be awkward, just companionable. That was the life I thought we were building. One quiet, contented day at a time. No fireworks, no chaos, just love, soft, familiar, and steady. That was my version of happiness. I didn't realize how fragile that kind of happiness could be. Not yet. I don't remember the first time she mentioned her. Probably in passing, one of those throwaway comments you don't register until they start showing up more often. I think it was something like, we had lunch today, me and my sister from work. Sister. She said it with that light tone people use when they talk about office besties, harmless, casual, familiar. I nodded, didn't ask much. I wasn't the jealous type. Never had been. I trusted her, fully. It was one of the things I took pride in, actually, the quiet strength of our relationship. We weren't one of those couples who needed to check each other's phones or ask for location updates. I never felt the need to track her. She came home every night, sometimes late, sometimes exhausted, but she came home. So when the sister started popping up in more stories, not just her voice in conversations, but also in pictures, in weekend plans, in anecdotes, I didn't think much of it. I figured she'd found a good friend. Work can be draining, especially in marketing. There's always some new campaign, some new client nightmare, some unreasonable deadline. Having a friend who gets it, that's gold. She called her Nastia. The name didn't mean anything to me at the time. I saw her once in a photo. A blurry Instagram story, 2 glasses of wine on a rooftop, some string lights in the background, a skyline beyond. The caption said something like well deserved. Two heads leaning in together. One was clearly my wife. The other, short hair, a flash of tattoo on the neck, a leather jacket. Nastia looked like someone from a music video. Cool, effortless, maybe a little too much eyeliner. Confident, the kind of woman who takes up space without asking. I remember thinking she didn't seem like my wife's usual crowd. My wife was softer, a little anxious, organized, careful, emotionally intelligent to a fault. Nastia looked like the kind of person who started drinking at noon and didn't apologize for it. Still, I didn't say anything. What would I say? You're spending too much time with your friend. That would sounded petty. Insecure. And I wasn't insecure. I was her husband. Soon, Nastia became a regular fixture in our lives, indirectly, of course. She was never physically around. I never met her. But she was there in the stories. In the way my wife lit up when she talked about her. Oh, Nastia had the craziest day at work today. Nastia's ex showed up at the bar. Nastia says I need to start journaling again. Nastia made me try this weird green smoothie, and now I'm obsessed. Always Nastia. At some point, the tone shifted, slowly, almost imperceptibly, from casual mentions to something else. I could feel it before I could name it. A certain softness in her voice when she spoke about her. A brightness that didn't always extend to me. Still, I brushed it off. I chalked it up to friendship. God knows I had friends I adored, too. Then came the weekends. It started as an occasional girls' night. Nothing unusual. They'd grab drinks, go dancing, unwind. But then the sleepovers started. Too late to be home, she'd say. Or, we drank a bit too much, didn't want to risk it. Once, she didn't come home until mid-afternoon the next day. She looked tired, but happy. Glowing, almost. She said they watched movies all night and fell asleep on the couch. I believed her. The next weekend, she was gone again. And then again. I remember standing in the kitchen one Sunday morning, making coffee, the cat circling my feet, and realizing I had seen my wife in over 36 hours. She had texted, of course, said she needed a break. A little space. Nothing was wrong, she said. Everything was fine. Just some time for herself. I stared at her message, read it 3 or 4 times. My hands were still wet from washing the dishes. The phone screen had a smudge from my thumb. That's when the first sliver of doubt crept in. Not suspicion. Not yet. Just that quiet tightening in the chest. Like when a room goes to quiet and you realize something is off, even if nothing looks out of place. And still, I said nothing. Because what would I say? That I missed her. That I felt like I was slowly being replaced in my own home. And I didn't even know by whom. Would that have changed anything? Probably not. After that, the way she spoke to me began to shift. Not cold. Not cruel. Just distant. Like her mind was always slightly elsewhere. Like she was thinking about something else, someone else, while we talked. Like she was no longer fully here with me. She started working late more often. Meetings that ran past dinner. Emergency calls from clients. I'd eat alone, wash the dishes, watch a few episodes of something mindless. She'd come home around 10, maybe later. I'd ask how her day was. She'd shrug, say something vague, kiss me on the cheek, and disappear into the shower. One night, I passed by the bathroom door and heard her laughing behind it. A genuine, belly-deep laugh, the kind I hadn't heard from her in months. The kind of laugh you don't fake. I remember standing in the hallway, staring at that door, feeling like a guest in my own apartment. It was around then that I started resenting Nastia. Not because I thought she was a threat, not yet, but because she had become a black hole in our life. Everything was drawn toward her, and I was slowly being pulled out of orbit. I still didn't say anything. I wish I had. I wish I had asked, directly, what are you not telling me? I wish I hadn't waited for proof. I wish I had listened to that quiet part of me, the part that knew, that had always known. But I didn't. Because I believed in the life we'd built. I believed in my wife. And sometimes, belief blinds you. It didn't fall apart overnight. I think that's the part people don't talk about enough, how betrayal can be quiet. How it doesn't always explode into your life like a bomb. Sometimes, it seeps in like water through a crack in the ceiling. Slow, unnoticed, until suddenly you're ankle deep and can't remember when exactly the floor got wet. If you'd asked me back then if anything felt wrong, I probably would have said no. Maybe a little off. Maybe tired. Stressed. But that's normal, right? Everyone gets into ruts. Every relationship has slow seasons. Peaks and valleys. That's what I told myself. That's what you tell yourself when you're not ready to look at the truth. The first real sign, the one I should have paid attention to, was the sex. Or rather, the disappearance of it. It didn't happen abruptly. At first, there were just longer gaps. We'd go a week without touching. Then 2. Then a month. I started keeping track in my head, even though I hated that I was doing it. Every time I'd think maybe tonight, something would come up. Headache, exhaustion, just not feeling it right now. And I never pushed. I'm not that guy. I told myself she was burnt out. She had been pulling late hours, her boss was breathing down her neck, her skin was breaking out, she wasn't sleeping well, all of it made sense. And besides, sex isn't everything. Relationships go through dry spells. It's normal, right? So I tried to help in the ways I could. I picked up more around the apartment, ordered food more often so she wouldn't have to cook, bought her favorite bath salts, little things. I even started going to the gym again. Not out of vanity, but okay, maybe a little out of vanity. I thought maybe if I looked better, she'd want me again. Maybe it'd become exciting, desirable. I started running in the evenings, eating cleaner, cut back on beer, got new jeans that actually fit right. She noticed, said I looked good, but there was a strange emptiness behind the compliment, like she was reading it off a script. It wasn't cruelty, it was detachment. She said the right things, but none of it felt anchored to reality. Meanwhile, Nastia was still everywhere, not physically, but in stories, in her phone, in her laughter, and maybe, just maybe, that was the problem. It wasn't that my wife stopped feeling, it's that she started feeling somewhere else. I'd come home from work and find her curled on the couch, texting rapidly, smiling to herself. I'd say hello. She'd nod, barely looking up. I'd ask what was so funny, and she'd say, just Nastia being ridiculous. The way she said her name, I didn't like it. It had a warmth that I hadn't heard in her voice from me in a while. There were other signs too, ones that felt too small to be significant at the time. Like how she started locking her phone. I'm not the type to check it, never have been, but she used to leave it on the table, screen up, unbothered. Then, one day, I noticed she flipped it over every time she walked away. Just a habit, maybe, but habits come from somewhere. Or how she started showering the moment she got home. Even if she hadn't been to the gym. Even if it was already late and she said she was too tired for anything. Into the bathroom, door locked, music on loud. She'd stay in there 30, 40 minutes, then come out in pajamas, already halfway to sleep. There were days I'd be in the same room with her for hours, and yet somehow feel completely alone. I'd watch her sitting beside me on the couch, laptop open, eyes glazed, fingers tapping. But she wasn't with me. Not really. Once, we were watching a movie, and I turned to say something. She didn't respond. I repeated myself. Still nothing. Finally, she looked up and said, sorry, what? She hadn't heard a word. Her phone screen glowed in her lap. Nastia, probably. I started to withdraw, without realizing I was doing it. Became quieter. Went to bed earlier. Stopped suggesting things, dates, trips, even small stuff like grabbing coffee together on Saturdays. She didn't seem to notice. Or maybe she did, and just didn't have the energy to pretend. I remember one night lying awake, staring at the ceiling fan spinning slowly overhead. The room was dark, except for the little charging light from her phone across the room. I could hear her breathing next to me, slow and even. I wondered if she was dreaming about someone else. If I had already become a background character in her story. I think that's what hurt the most, not the absence of sex, not the locked phone, not even the sister. It was the realization that somewhere along the line, I had become optional, silent, a placeholder, and still, I said nothing. Because saying something means opening a door, and I wasn't ready to walk through it. I wasn't ready to ask questions I might not want answers to, so I kept going, pretending everything was fine, laughing at her jokes, texting her during the day, making her tea when she was sick, trying, even when she had already stopped. But in hindsight, everything was already shifting. The ground under me had tilted, and I didn't even know it. Or maybe I did. Maybe I knew the whole time, and just refused to look down. People think discovering betrayal is some dramatic moment, that it comes with a loud crash, a phone falling from your hand, a scream, a confrontation under flickering lights, like a scene from a movie. But in real life, it's quieter than you expect, more numb than painful, at least at first. The moment it actually happens, it's not pain, it's stillness. Like all the sound in the room just drops out, and you're left alone with a sudden awareness that something is broken now, and it's not fixable. For me, it started with something ridiculously ordinary, a forgotten Instagram login. She had used my laptop a few nights before, We were sitting side by side on the couch, her working on a report, me absent-mindedly checking emails. She needed to upload a story quickly for her team's campaign. Asked to borrow my screen. No problem. I slid the laptop over to her without thinking. Apparently, she forgot to log out. 3 days later, I opened my browser to check my bank account. Instagram was still logged in. The page loaded automatically. Her account. That was it. No drama. No search. No suspicion. Just a casual, accidental reveal. At first, I wasn't even snooping. I was about to log her out when a red dot caught my eye, a message notification. Reflexively, I clicked it. 1 message. Then 5. Then a stream of them loaded in. The username read, @nas.nst. Nastia. I felt a jolt. Not panic. Not even anger. Just something mechanical. Like a part of my brain flipping a switch and beginning to observe, carefully, methodically, the way you watch a building collapse from a safe distance. I clicked into the chat. What I saw wasn't just a flirtatious exchange or a few suggestive lines. It was a full life. A second relationship, built and nurtured carefully, obsessively, in the shadows of my own home. There were photos, inside jokes, private nicknames, flirty emojis, plans, memories, dozens of them. Memories that I hadn't been a part of. Memories that had been happening while I was folding laundry or cooking pasta or refreshing Netflix to watch something together. The worst part, how casual it all felt. They weren't hiding. Not really. Their messages weren't even encrypted or deleted or renamed under fake contacts. It was just there, as if they'd forgotten I even existed. As if I was some shadow on the wall, irrelevant, harmless, background noise. They talked about me, sometimes kindly, more often not. Jokes at my expense. Comments about how he still hasn't noticed. One message read, "It's like he's not even in the room anymore." I think that's when my breath caught. I read on. There were talks of next steps, about what they could be if she was free, about how she felt more herself with Nastia than she ever had before. That line repeated, "I feel like I'm finally me when I'm with you." I stared at it for a long time, longer than I should have. I don't know how much time passed. I didn't feel my legs go numb. Didn't notice the cold coffee still sitting on the desk. Didn't blink, maybe. When I finally closed the laptop, the room felt different. Smaller, like the walls had leaned in just slightly, enough to press the air out of the space. I didn't cry, didn't scream, didn't throw anything. Just sat there. Something inside me folded in on itself, quietly, efficiently, like a letter sealed and never meant to be opened again. Later that day, I made dinner. Out of habit, I set to plates. She came home late, again, said something about a meeting. Her hair was slightly damp. I wondered, for the first time, where exactly she had been. Not where she said she had been. But really, I didn't ask. We ate in silence. She scrolled through her phone between bites. I watched her from across the table. And all I could think was, how long has she been gone? Not physically, emotionally, spiritually. How long has the woman I loved been somewhere else? I didn't confront her that night. I didn't say anything. And no, it wasn't because I was afraid of the truth, not anymore. It was because I needed space to understand what that truth meant. Because when you realize your entire life has shifted off its axis, you don't immediately try to correct it. You stand there first. You try to find where the floor ends. Over the next few days, I kept going through the motions. Showered, worked, fed the cat, said good morning, said good night. She acted normal, as if nothing had changed, but everything had. There's a strange loneliness in knowing something the other person doesn't know you know. Like you're carrying a secret, but the secret is them. It warps the way you see every word, every gesture. I started watching her like a stranger. The way she tied her hair. The way she smiled while texting. The way she flinched when I entered a room unexpectedly. I saw it now. All of it. The distance. The patterns. The quiet exits. The lingering showers. The weekends with a friend. None of it looked innocent anymore. But the truth is, the signs were always there. I just wasn't ready to look at them until they became undeniable. And now, there they were. In full color. Permanent. A digital record of a love that wasn't mine. I kept returning to one particular message, one she had sent just a few days before I found it. It read, "I feel like I've already left, you know? Like my body's still here, but my soul's been with you for months." It was the most honest thing it read in a long time. Because I had felt it, too. The absence, the vanishing, the slow, steady slipping away of someone I once knew better than anyone. And now, all I could think was, what am I supposed to do with what's left? They tell you betrayal is fire, that it burns, rips through your life like a storm of emotion, rage, heartbreak, hysteria, that you'll scream, that you'll throw things, that you'll collapse into yourself with fists clenched and teeth bared. But for me, it was ice. Cold, measured, still. The kind of stillness you only feel after a long, slow death, not a sudden one. Something that's been dying for so long, the final breath barely makes a sound. I didn't confront her right away. I didn't wake her up in the middle of the night or slam the laptop shut or shout her name across the room. I just waited. Not out of fear. Not even out of shock. I waited because I knew that once I said it, once I opened that door, there would be no going back. There would be no pause, no maybe, no chance of pretending it hadn't happened. And I wasn't ready to detonate the life we'd built. Not yet. So I sat with it. I held it like a fragile object in my hands, turning it over again and again, inspecting the cracks, running my fingers along the edges, trying to understand the weight of it. A betrayal like that doesn't just hurt. It rewrites everything that came before it. Every kiss, every quiet morning, every shared smile, all of it begins to shimmer with doubt. You wonder if any of it was real, or if you were the only one who thought it was. And so I watched her. For days. I watched her laugh at her phone screen, watched her fix her hair before leaving the house, watched her move through our shared space like a guest in a hotel she no longer planned to return to. And I waited for the right moment, not for revenge, not to make her feel bad, but to say it plainly, to look her in the eye and lay the truth on the table like a card that had been up my sleeve for far too long. It came on a Wednesday. I remember because the weather was nothing, not rainy, not sunny, just gray. The kind of sky that reflects exactly how you feel inside. She came home late, said she'd been at a client dinner. I already knew she hadn't. She walked into the apartment with the same tired little sigh she always used when she didn't want to talk. Dropped her bag, kicked off her shoes. She looked at me briefly, offered a faint smile, then started walking toward the bathroom. That's when I said it. Her name first. Just her name. Calm, steady, like I was about to ask her to help me with the groceries. She turned, surprised. I rarely used that tone. That even tone. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse. I just opened the laptop, turned the screen toward her, the messages, the photos, the time-stamped reality. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. Her eyes scanned the screen. Then again. Then she stopped. And for a long, unbearable second, she didn't blink. No gasps. No tears. Just silence. The kind that fills every crack in a room and makes it hard to breathe. I watched her face closely, not because I wanted to see guilt or shame. I wasn't hungry for it. I just wanted to know if she would lie. If she would try. She didn't. Instead, she closed the laptop softly, like it was made of glass, and sat down on the edge of the couch, the same couch we'd watched dozens of movies on, cuddled under blankets, laughed until our stomachs hurt. Now it felt like a piece of scenery in someone else's life. She put her hands on her knees, looked down, then finally met my eyes. What she said wasn't defensive, wasn't emotional. It was quiet. Honest, maybe, or maybe just tired. She said, I don't know what to say. I believed her, because what is there to say? I didn't ask questions. I didn't want details. I already had them. I didn't want to know when it started or how many times or why she let it happen. I already knew the only answer that mattered. She had left me. Emotionally, spiritually, maybe even physically, long before this moment. And I had just been the last to realize it. There was no shouting, no sobbing, no melodrama, just the quiet end of something we had once called a marriage. I asked her one thing. I asked, are you happy? It came out so gently. It didn't even sound like a question, more like a final note at the end of a song that had already faded. She paused, a long pause, then said, I don't know. And that, somehow, was the most honest thing either of us had said to each other in months. After that, she didn't sleep in our bed, said she needed space. I said okay. She moved her things into the second bedroom. The cat started following me more. She used to be the one he loved most. Now he curled up on my chest like he knew I needed something warm that wouldn't leave. We didn't fight. We coexisted. For a few days, maybe a week. I lost track. She was polite. Made tea for herself, not for both of us. Cleaned up her side of the kitchen. Avoided eye contact when she walked through the living room. And then, quietly, one morning, she packed a bag. She said she was staying with a friend for a while. I didn't ask which one. She didn't offer. The door closed behind her. Not slammed. Just closed. And that was that. Later, I found one of her earrings on the floor near the coffee table. I picked it up and placed it on the counter. It's still there. There's a moment after everything breaks when nothing happens. People expect the pain to hit like a train, loud, violent, immediate. But in reality, the first thing you feel after someone walks out the door is nothing. Just silence. A kind of quiet you can hear in your bones. It was like that for me. She was gone. Not with tears, not with screaming, not even with a slammed door, just a soft closing sound. And then the apartment was still. The hum of the refrigerator. The tick of the wall clock. My own breath, steady, a little too loud. I stood in the kitchen for a while. I don't know how long. Eventually, I sat down. Just me. And the cat. He jumped into my lap like he'd been waiting for that moment. Maybe he knew. Animals have a way of sensing absence better than we do. For the next few days, I existed more than lived. I made coffee. Didn't drink it. Turned on the TV. Didn't watch. Went to work. Said nothing. People asked if I was okay. I said I was tired. That was true, at least. There's this strange thing that happens when your life empties out. At first, it just feels like space. Free time. A weird sort of calm. I remember standing in the shower and realizing no one was going to knock on the door. No one was going to ask if I was done. I could take all the time in the world. That should have felt liberating. It didn't. It felt endless. I thought about texting her. More than once. Not to beg. Not to accuse. Just to ask how she was. But I didn't. I figured she was fine. Or at least fine enough not to reach out first. Eventually, she came to collect the rest of her things. She brought a friend. Not Nastia. Someone else. She didn't say much. Neither did I. I stayed in the other room. I heard boxes being taped, hangers clinking together, the sound of our life being taken apart and packed away. She didn't take everything. She left behind an old sweater, a mug, some books. I still haven't moved them. They sit on the shelf like relics from a life that no longer exists. She also left the cat. I think that was the only decision we both understood. Pixel had chosen his side. I started walking more. Mornings, especially. Early, before the streets got too loud. Before anyone I knew might see me. There was something comforting in movement. Putting one foot in front of the other, even if I didn't know where I was going. At least it was something. The city looked different. Not because it had changed, but because I had. The restaurants we'd eaten in now felt like crime scenes. The bench by the lake, where she once told me she loved how calm I made her feel, I couldn't sit on it anymore. The word calm felt like a lie now. Like a polite synonym for forgettable. I started noticing couples more. Two people holding hands at crosswalks. A woman resting her head on someone's shoulder in the subway. I tried not to stare, but I watched them, not with envy, but with curiosity. How many of you are still in love? How many of you are already gone and just don't know it yet? Sometimes I caught myself wondering if she missed me. If she ever thought about the quiet life we built. The little routines. The Sunday pancakes. The way I used to leave the light on in the hallway because she hated walking into darkness. But I stopped asking myself that after a while. Not because I knew the answer, but because it didn't matter. Whether she missed me or not wouldn't change the fact that she left. And in time, I learned that not everything broken needs to be understood. Some things just are. Weeks passed, then months. I started sleeping better. Not great, but better. The silence that used to keep me awake became a blanket. I stopped checking her social media. I didn't block her. I just stopped looking. The curiosity dried up. The wound scabbed over. She posted a photo once. I saw it by accident. A mutual friend had liked it. It was her and Nastiel on a motorcycle, matching leather jackets, messy hair, smiling like they'd stolen something and gotten away with it. Caption: finally home. I stared at it for a long time. Not with hate, not even with sadness. Just with a kind of resigned peace. She had left. She had chosen. And I had survived it. That was the most surprising part, really, that I hadn't shattered. That despite everything, I was still standing, still breathing, still brushing my teeth, still making toast. Grief isn't always loud. Sometimes it just folds itself into your day like a second shadow. Eventually, the days felt less like something to get through and more like something I could be inside of. I started cooking again, reading, making playlists. I rearranged the furniture, bought new curtains. One night I lit a candle just because. No one was coming over. It wasn't for anyone. Just me. The cat jumped on the table, curled into a tight ball, and fell asleep. And I realized, slowly, that I was still here. Still mine. Not someone's husband. Not someone's fallback. Just me. Enough.